Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of Beers and Bullshit. My name is Cole Blender. Thank you so much for joining me here this afternoon. We got a couple of different guests here today joining me in the absence of my co-host Jace. Could not make it in because I am a king at last minute planning and just fitting in episodes whenever the fuck we can. So joining me again though is a second time guest. You know him as the world's most interesting man, SirCar Brown. SirCar, how you doing here today?
Yo, what's popping? It's another day of the week, man.
Good.
Chilling.
Well, what's been up with you since we last talked? We last talked about 2 months ago. Any big life changes? Anything kind of going on here with you?
No, I mean, just the usual. Volleyball, darts, and softball starting up. So
yeah,
that's really about it. I mean, just working and chilling.
There we go, man. Yeah, exactly. Living the life. We got summertime coming around here in South Dakota. It's mid-April. I feel like South Dakota has yet to receive that message, though, with the weather this past, probably week and a half.
It's still winter. Yeah,
it's still winter. Yeah, it don't matter. No.
It literally snowed 2 days ago. So
exactly.
What the shit?
Well, in true South Dakota fashion, though, there's no snow on the ground as of this recording.
It's like 60 degrees outside.
Yeah, it was actually a beautiful day today. Didn't you see? You went for a walk in the park.
Yeah. It was a gorgeous day. I really hate it. What was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? It was 50 degrees, and then it dropped down 15 degrees and snowed for 20 minutes, enough to accumulate just a little bit on the ground, and then it was sunny again, and it rose another 5 degrees, so it was low 40s.
Yeah, South Dakota's on that bipolar shit all the time with the weather.
I'm really surprised pneumonia isn't more rampant up here, to be completely honest, with the weather changes. People's sinuses aren't just destroyed like mine are.
I don't know. It happens to me every single winter, and we're actually going to kick this conversation. We're going to introduce our new guest today, one of my best friends here, Mr. Logan Gayton. Just a little bit of background on Logan here. Played football with me in high school, been a good friend for a long time here. He is a master of engineering, master chief here at a engineering firm in Rapid City. So Logan, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, bud.
Yeah, no, me and Cole met freshman year back in high school. We had what was called High School 101, and we were partners in crime. Have a couple good stories from that time. And then lineman brothers ever since. And yeah, but in the meantime, I've finished my master's degree back in 2019 and just been grinding out work.
From the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, do not be modest. It is one of the hardest engineering schools in the nation.
So pretty much you're the smartest guy here.
Well, I don't know. I'd give you guys both a run for your money. That's actually why I brought you guys out here. This is really just a battle of wits. Only one of you is escaping with your life. So
I would argue that I'm the smartest dumb guy I've ever met. Only a dumbass who doesn't necessarily need to get a master's degree says, "Oh, I'm going to get a master's degree," and does it.
I mean, I don't feel like that makes you a dumbass.
Dumb smart.
Yeah,
but
it added an extra $20,000 worth of debt.
I mean, it's worth it. I mean, I don't know. It depends on your field, really. Oh, that's an interesting conversation within itself. But
yeah.
School versus non-school versus trade school and stuff like that. But
yeah,
so it depends on your field, honestly.
Yeah. Financially, it was probably a smart decision in the long run. It's just, it was a hard time trying to transition out of the idea of being a college student because I had been a student for most of my life. And then I had that thought of what am I going to do now if I don't get a job? And so I was like, I could always fall back on school. And so that's what ended up happening. And I was just like, now that I'm done, either I go get a PhD and become a professor or I try to make an engineer out of myself. And well, it's working.
Hey, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they say, the old school rock quote, those who can't do, teach. So, if you can't engineer, you can go teach it. And, which makes a lot of sense, but that's American society for you. It's all respect to teachers, but just say.
Yeah.
It's funny because whenever you're in those college classes, you have probably a small handful of professors that have actually done the stuff in real life. And then the other ones just went straight out of academia and they don't even know how to design the stuff, let alone come up with plan sets or even instruct you on how to be an engineer. They're just like, I'm going to show you the theoretics and then you can wing it out in the real world. And that's how it feels.
Yeah, and that's exactly how it is. I mean, and that's the reason why, most of the time they really want you to do internships.
Yep.
and stuff like that. That way, you not only learn the theoretical application of whatever you're doing, but also, the applied application as well. And I think that's where a lot of professors are actually kind of lacking, is like, you just hit the nail on the head. A lot of people go to college, they finish their undergrad, go directly into the master's, finish their master's, go directly into the PhD, but they never really have any applied.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another trap that a lot of people find themselves in nowadays, because we do emphasize going to college. Well, you have to pay for college as well. And most internships are unpaid internships. So then you're getting screwed. So like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you pay for college and work for free,
Yep.
at the same time?
Yep.
And it's just not conducive.
Yeah. Unfortunately for engineering, they're typically paid internships and everything. But there are a lot of internships where they're like, the experience is good enough for you. And that's the odd part.
Yeah.
And eventually I want to get a PhD and become a professor so that I kind of have an easy job eventually.
Hey, man, do it.
But I also want to be that professor that, oh, I want to show you guys this project I worked on and how it's actually from start to finish and all that. That's the dream right there.
He wants to be Ted Mosby.
Yes.
He wants to be Ted Mosby is what it kind of is coming down to here. Is he wants to be Ted Mosby.
More intelligent and less artistic.
That's what's up. There's nothing wrong with that at all,
A
man.
little less douchey too, and hopefully you don't kill off one of your wives in an attempt to tell a
Get
story
back
to your
with an
children.
ex.
Yeah, exactly. So
That ending was just trash. Well, if you look at it from a poetic standpoint, the way that ended was okay. But
no, it's horseshit. Stand by that motherfucking thing. We talked about this. Siglin and I did an episode. God, this is what happens when you have two podcasts and you, I listen to more of it than other people do apparently, but God, which episode? I think we did it on Beers and Bullshit here, where we talked about our top sitcoms, and How I Met Your Mother finished pretty high for me, but the only complaint I've ever had about How I Met Your Mother is how it ended.
yeah. Well, and I always have to double take and try to see what the writers were doing, and so everything was perfect up until the end of season 8 and all through season 9.
See, that's the thing is, I love the whole weekend at Barney's. Like, I love the whole Barney wedding weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost feel like, and I touched on this, previously. I wish they would have done like almost a last season. Like, if you're going to kill off the mom, I guess I'm fine with that concept, but I really wish there would have been a second season so the mom could have been more integrated into the show, because I felt like she was just this potent dose of just everything all at the same time, because we really only got like half of season 9 with her to really shove in all of her character development. They tried to rush her and catch her up with what we've been watching for 9 seasons. I mean, falling in love with, Ted, Robin, Barney, Marshall, Lily, all the regulars of the show, all the side characters, the Ranjits, the Billy Zabkas, everything in the show like that you fall in love with, that makes it such a great show. Like, they tried to just rush her and make her work into it, and it worked to a point. But like I said, if I were to redo it, keeping the same ending, I would add another season and still integrate her into the show a little bit more, before you just fucking off her.
Yeah. And I mean, from the artistic standpoint of the season, like, I think it was from that focal point of that was the worst Ted had ever felt in his life, is why season 9 went on so long. Just like how whenever we're all going through our stuff, it's like we're stuck in time. Time's not advancing. We're stuck in that emotion. And maybe that's why season 9 was so long. But then once he met the mother, it was like, oh, the 3 episodes.
It just, like, time just flew by.
But I agree. We should have gotten more time with her, because everybody else within the show got to fall in love with her and got to experience life with her. But we never got to see the narration, which you can go ahead and say, oh, it's so you can paint the picture of how it really was. But if they hadn't just given up, we could have had something greater. Kind of like how Game of Thrones ended,
Oh,
Okay. I will say this, though. All due respect to How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother was a minimal disappointment. Game of Thrones was a tragic historical fucking letdown how they finished off. I am extremely disappointed, and I will cover in depth the rise and fall of Game of Thrones at some point.
Yeah. Just let me know. And
oh yeah, no, Jason and I have already been planning that. You're definitely a part of our panel for that one there, because there's a couple of nerddoms Actually, fuck it. We'll announce it right now. We are going to be doing a Star Wars episode leading up here, talking about the extended universe, because we really don't care about what canon is Disney. We care about what canon is Star Wars. So, at the end of the day, we're going to talk about the extended universe and kind of what Disney has expelled a little bit. We're going to talk a lot of mainstream Star Wars, for all you fans who don't know, but we're going to have kind of this really good blend of that. But we'll also be talking about Game of Thrones, too. I think that's going to be another panel. We've talked about having SirCar on, and I don't know, Logan, were you a Thrones fan?
Yeah, it was up until the last 3 seasons that I finally watched it, and I marathoned it all, and I couldn't stop. And my wife's an avid fan, and she's actually up to date on all the books and everything. I just recently started reading books again since high school.
That's pretty good.
I wish I knew how to read.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Shit,
Oh,
yeah.
you're lucky you know how to read.
Yeah. I'm sitting
that's
over
that.
here.
That's that college student in you, huh?
Yeah.
It's like I
trying
just
to rub it in
listened
now?
to the lectures. I watched YouTube videos.
Oh, look at Mr. College over here thinking he's all hot stuff and stuff, man. Yeah, you think
You
he's
think
so
you all
wise?
special?
Yeah, you think you're all
You
special?
think you're all special?
You think you're better than me?
You saved $1,000 a semester on books. You didn't have to read.
I went to Texas A&M.
That's where my brother went to school.
No, I didn't save
He went to state school, bro. It's just like School of Mines, bro. He paid.
I paid.
Well, not only financially, but with blood, sweat, tears, and no goddamn sleep.
No. Trust me. Yeah. None.
And to say, like, from School of Mines, I know with Texas A&M, they have all the different colleges there. But at Mines, there was, like, when I came in, it was like a 3 to 7 male to female ratio. Where there was so many males, and to talk to one, it was like having a baseball bat, and you're like, I want to talk to her now.
No, there were definitely a lot of females at A&M.
You know what that makes me think of? That makes me think of the South Park. That whenever time you step on the campus to South Dakota School of Mines, it's just wiener, wiener, wiener,
Right.
wiener, 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 wiener.
Why does it
No,
smell
we
like
didn't have-
sweaty ball sack here?
Yeah. Why is it just a bunch of fucking dudes in gym shorts?
We did not have that issue at A&M.
Yeah.
Hoodies and gym shorts. It just encompasses. See, I went to Black Hill State, which had the opposite, quote unquote problem. I didn't see a problem with it.
Yeah, probably a lot of females at Black Hill State.
Well, see, because that's the thing is because women are smarter than men, so automatically I have a lot of people to help me out in school.
Mm-hmm.
The room always smells a lot better because of the ratio. Because it's more because it's
florally
flipped. It's
most of
7
the
to
time.
3. Women to men. So
Yeah.
very floral, very perfume based.
It's not musk.
All the
it's not
guys, all the guys are
so-
usually on their game. I've never cared, so I was just hoodie sweatshirt till I
Right,
died.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it was fantastic. I think it was a great college experience. I didn't graduate like you gentlemen, so I mean, maybe if there was probably less distractions, I could have focused a little bit more. We'll blame it on that. We'll blame it on the distractions. Distractions.
I don't know. My college experience was fun. I had more fun in high school, honestly, but I think it was because I sped through so quickly. Because I mean, hell, like between summer classes, winter classes, everything that I brought in. My first semester was 21 hours. My second semester was 20 hours. Third semester was 18. Fourth semester was 20. And that's sans.
I was about to say someone just had a flashback in this room. Logan's good. Yeah,
That's
you good, bro?
sans, my winter and summer semesters and the mini semesters and stuff like that. So,
No, my college experience was very similar. And a lot of people have trouble on their first, second semesters, their first year or so, and then they end up failing out and all kinds of issues. But it wasn't the second year until I struggled, and for whatever reason, it was like I got into concepts that my brain wasn't able to handle and just bombed horribly.
yeah. Well, my biggest issue was well, not only did I switch my major, but so I actually went in on a music scholarship.
Oh.
And that's what paid the majority of my college, was being in there on a music scholarship. But then, my actual first major was actually animal science, minoring in chemistry, and then I switched it over to computer science.
Oh.
So,
Yeah, I went in as a mining engineer, was going to focus on reclamation and trying to save the world from the awful mining companies. And then
He was Marshall Erickson.
Yeah, and then I went on a tour to a mine, and I was talking to a guy who was working the computers and the controls, and I was like, so how does this work out? Did you graduate with a mining engineering degree? And he was like, of course not. It's like, I got a civil engineering degree. And I was like, well, why did you choose civil? Well, you can do anything. If you want to work on buildings, you can work buildings. If you want to work with the environment,
it's more universal.
Yeah. And so I was like, why does this sound like the more intelligent path to my life? And so I switched my degree, and honestly, I'm completely happy with with what I do.
I love what I do, but I don't utilize any of mine. So
yeah, I had 1 year out of college where I was at with this firm, and the firm did a lot of good things, did a lot of engineering things, but what I was utilized as, I didn't use any of my degree, and I was upset about it. I was like, I just paid so much money and busted my ass for so many years to not use my degree.
Yeah.
And finally, I'm at a new firm, and I've used my degree more times than I can count, and it reminds me that I've forgotten more things than
you remember more than likely.
Yeah. And so it's honestly true. If you don't use it, you kind of lose it. Like, it comes back quick, but
yeah,
it's like a mental muscle memory thing.
It is very much so.
So I just have to pop in here. We have a dance class going on next door because of scheduling conflicts. The music that we are softly not trying to broadcast right now is not copyrighted or anything. We are not trying to use it for any sort of audience purposes or whatever. So what's up?
You want me to switch over here?
No, we should be good. We should be good here. We'll just kind of continue, keep it rolling. It's an informal podcast. It's not like this is Sports Center or anything where, I mean, fuck it, dude. Outtakes are money. So funny story. We're actually I'm gonna transition into something here. So we were doing the live stream of the mock draft on Sunday, April 11th, and we're recording this 6 days after the 17th. It probably won't drop for about a week or two. So probably late April, early May is when you're going to be hearing this. But when we did the mock draft, within the first second, my good friend Mike Shaw, who features a lot on Sig and the Big, and is going to feature a lot on Sig and the Big. Love him to death, but what he does is he picks his ear and then almost forgets the fact that he picked his ear and then immediately picks his teeth. And this is the first thing.
Michael.
When we went live on Facebook, this is the first thing that he did. And like, bro, everybody is hitting me up. Like, I walked into work first thing, and my boy Dante is just like, he's just like, dude, did you watch the video back? And I'm like, yeah, what about it? And he's like, yo, it was good, but did you see what Mike did the first second? I'm like, God damn it. I'm like, oh, bro, that's
that
the one
does not
thing.
shock me, actually.
No, I love Mike Shaw, but
I love Mike too.
Bro.
Small world. I know Mike.
I know. I was like, man, I'm like, which cool, whatever, you know, like, I'm down to do some embarrassing shit. I guess whatever gets the views, you know, I'm a slut for opportunity, but bro, that just made me laugh. I was just like, bro.
Shout out to Mike.
Yeah, shout out to Mike Shaw. Thanks for keeping the show interesting. Keep the buzz going. So we love you, big boy.
Dude, I haven't really seen Shaw since high school football.
I was about to say, yeah, you know him too, because we all played ball together. Yeah, you played. Yeah, Shaw was. I mean, obviously, I've worked with him, you know, a couple of times in the past couple of weeks. But yeah, it'd been years since we had talked. But he's still good old Mike Shaw. He's just, you know, big old lovable guy.
He's so chill, man. He's like a giant teddy bear.
Oh, he is. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
he's literally just a
definition
giant
of teddy bear. No, I love
like,
Mike. Nicest dude ever.
Nicest people you ever meet.
Mm-hmm.
But stupid smart at sports. Like, I thought, like, I was like savant level at sports, bro. Like, I love talking sports with Mike because we'll just go on and then, yeah, like, I mean, obviously I, you know, talk about it all the fucking time for a reason, but bro, it's like just getting stupid into sports because I feel like that's my level of it is like, I'll start talking and then like the average person's like, yeah. And then 5 minutes later, like, dude, slow the fuck down. Like, what are you talking about, bro? And I'm just like, hold on. I'm like, no, like, obviously, you know, that's why we get along and that's why, you know, that's why we all get along. But like, I'm just saying, like, the average person, it's like, yeah. I'm a really big football fan. I'm in like 2 fantasy leagues, bro. And then you start.
That's what people say that to me, and I just laugh. I was like, bitch, I was in 4 last year, and I won 3 of the 4. The only reason why I didn't win my 4th one was because of the fucking Saints giving Alvin Kamara trying to give him the record.
He was so pissed. He was so salty. He's like Kamara would go for fucking 6 touchdowns.
How do I lose a game on a Friday night?
Yeah. He loses a fantasy football game on a Friday night.
You know, and if he wouldn't have got that last touchdown, oh man, I'm boiling now. If he wouldn't have got that last touchdown, I would have been fine because like he ended up my opponent did have Mike Evans as well. Mike Evans went baller that day too, but it was just one of those things like Kamara put up like 1/3 of my opponent's points.
Well, didn't he ragtagged it too, because there was like only one other player who, like, because it was like Kamara put up a 50 burger or 60 burger, 60 burger in your league, but then someone else put up either a 40 or 50 burger.
Yeah,
I remember.
it was Mike Evans.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So Mike Evans put up the 40 burger, and so that's pretty much what TKO'd you there in the semifinals. Championship round. Okay.
Championship. And I did have Stephon Diggs, who he put up a 40 for me.
Won me 2 championship. Shout out Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen. That was my money combo on 2 different championship teams this year.
And so I ended up only losing by like, I think the score was like 175 to like 160. In my league, if you get like 140, you're pretty much guaranteed to win. Almost guaranteed it. 130, probably 130-ish actually. You're pretty much guaranteed to win. And we both went 150 plus. I was the only other person who put up. I did do a 200 twice that year, but I mean, I was just so bitter because like even if Alvin Kamara literally just scored one less touchdown,
you win that game.
I win that game.
Yeah, and that was my thing this year is I ended up winning the championship, but I was in the championship and I was losing up until that Sunday night game with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, bro, you got to be kidding me, because my team finished with only 2 losses, and the 2 losses were literally the 2 highest scoring games in the league that were not by me.
Yeah.
Like this league, I got super lucky. Like I picked up James Robinson, right away out, with Jacksonville. Like I just had a super juiced up team. Like I said, not to mention, Diggs and Allen.
Right.
But yeah, it was, thank God they saved me at the end, because I've had teams like that before where you have the powerhouse team and then finally like the team you are the most confident about just shits the bed championship.
Yeah. And I can only blame myself because I think there was one person who I was on the.
I was about to say I think you fucked on the bench too. Yeah,
there was one person that I was on the fence about, and I went with the person who had been very consistent, but was coming off of injury.
I'm trying to remember what situation. I remember we were talking about it after you had lost.
And unfortunately, I can't pull the roster right now, but I don't remember who it was, but yeah, so. I mean, I can only blame myself, really, because if I played optimally, I would have won that game. But still, like, Alvin Kamara, man, like, good for him. Like, I can't be that upset. It's just getting fucked by one person, literally.
He's more of a gangbang guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like one here, divide the pressure out a little bit.
The biggest issue was, like, Alvin Kamara last year was not the Alvin Kamara we've been seeing. And then
that one game, 6 touchdowns. I was about to say you probably didn't watch a lot of football last year, Logan, but no. he's just like last year's just been
Well, dude, I used to care about football when I was playing, but then whenever I stopped playing football and stopped doing things for football, I was just like, man, I just can't watch it the same as I did when I was playing. It just doesn't have the same allure.
Oh, see, I just live vicariously through them now in my broken life, so it's all good.
Well, watching them, it makes me realize like some of the things that I'm not that good, or maybe I could have been, but maybe that's the ego talking.
I think most of it is mainly circumstance.
Yeah.
I mean, up here, like.
It's very hard to make it professionally out of South Dakota.
Yeah.
Like that's why Rapid's most famous professional athlete's a kicker.
Yeah.
Shout out Adam Vinatieri.
Yeah, and I was gonna say basketball coach, but
Becky Hammond. When she makes the NBA's first female head coach, I will say she's the most famous. But as right now, Adam Vinatieri is the greatest kicker.
Even on top of that, I will still say Adam Vinatieri is more famous. Honestly, you ask. I would be willing to bet 7 out of 10 people know exactly who Adam Vinatieri is.
Give it 20 years though. If she's the first female head coach, and with the way that the NBA is trending, though, I mean, with the younger generation, like give that 20 years, and I think you see a different place.
I hope you're right, and I would love to because I love watching WNBA personally. Yeah. I've been watching it since the conference.
Oh no, she'll be the first NBA with female NBA
which is fine.
head coach.
But I'm just saying, like when it comes to women in sports, they don't get a good fight, man. Like it sucks. Like, and we should be supporting our women athletes a lot more.
I think the one that really upsets me the most is Because I understand how income and everything works before we get a bunch of fucking people. Which, please, honestly, if you comment on this post when it's posted up, fight me on the equal pay argument. Please bring that one to the table. But I will say the U.S. women's soccer team is the one that pisses me off the most because they are literally the best soccer team in the world. They bring in more money probably for America, I would imagine.
For specifically,
specifically.
For 20 years?
For 20 years, they have been one of the best soccer teams in the world. They've won 3 gold cups in the past 20 years, only losing out once. And so you're sitting here with a men's team that hasn't qualified the past two World Cups.
Well, even
because they just missed qualification for this new one. Yeah,
which is stupid. Like, but no, 96 I think was the first like really strong female U.S. women's team.
99
was.
Yep, the 99ers.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Brady Chastain.
Yeah. Because you're talking, Brandi Chastain, Mia Hamm, all those girls.
Man, they were crazy.
And if you haven't gonna peep this one real fast, ESPN Plus, go check out the 99ers 30 for 30 on there. It's a fantastic watch.
It's it's fantastic. But no, I hate it. Like even there's a meme going around right now with Sue Bird. Sue Bird came into WNBA 2003. Same exact year as LeBron James. Sue Bird, what was it, a signing bonus? It was something like she makes like barely over $100,000, and LeBron James makes what, $34 million in 1 year.
Yeah, I had seen some. Well, I had looked up on it and heard some things in podcasts, and it's how the WNBA negotiated how pay stuff was gonna go, and so the NBA pays kind of on a free agent basis where they can negotiate the contract. However, the WNBA and all their players organized to say, we want regular living wages. So regardless of what our contract says 1 year, we're going to be able to get this amount. And the poor thing about it is that because there's not a lot of people watching the WNBA and buying the jerseys and buying those things that they do for everything, there's just, that's why there's not money in it.
And you're 100% right. It's because we as a nation don't really support women in sports.
Well, just look at the promotion of the World Cup for men in America compared to, just in America, literally the World Cup for men is promoted more. Now I understand that most people just prefer men's sports, but also at the same time, like when you are in America, a place where, like I said, where I mentioned, we have this diversity between a powerhouse women's team and a men's team that's a middling program that doesn't even qualify for the World Cup sometimes. And they, like I said, have not the past 2 World Cups. And so we're sitting here with stark contrast in that aspect to where they are nationally paid athletes. Because yes, like NBA, WNBA, I think the NBA should support the WNBA a lot more like they have been doing recently. But my stark contrast is like Olympic athletes. Like that should be level across the board.
Yeah.
When you're getting paid by the government, like for that type of job, like, I think in that sort of situation, I'm not saying that the women should be paid more, even though that, success would argue differently. But I'm saying like they should put more money behind promoting the women's team and pay those women more because they're not making as much as the men, and the success rate is completely different.
I think I would make an argument that if our U.S. men's team played against our U.S. women's team, our U.S. women's team would beat the men's team.
Honestly, yes.
In soccer.
Because, the men's team, I think, would be quicker, faster because they're just a bigger team. But honestly, when you're talking about pure skill, like watching the women's team, it's immaculate. It's incredible. Yeah. There's a reason they're at the top of the game.
And not to go back to it, but like the Sue Bird versus LeBron James, both have been in their professions 17 years. Both of them have 4 championships. 2020 salary for Sue Bird was $215,000. LeBron James in 2020 was $37 million. That's nuts. The signing bonus was $11,357 for Sue Bird. The signing bonus for 2020 for LeBron James was $370,000. Like, and that, it's just not. Granted, like I get it. Like it's been, you can't kick a dead horse, but the way that things are structured are very different. Mm-hmm. And then like even with the women, like women in soccer, for example, the U.S. soccer team, they do get to double dip because not only do they get paid nationally by our national government to play soccer, but they also get paid by their club team as well.
Yep.
They do get both. It's just that sum is still so much less than even a person who makes is like an alternate gets paid. for the U.S. men's team. And they're not doing anything.
How does that funding and payment structure work out and differentiate between the men and the women's?
The men's program is just simply because of the economics and because with the Olympic organizations, essentially how the funding, if I'm not mistaken, is a lot of it, you're either talking about donations or sponsorships. At the end of the day is what funds the program. It's not actually government funded. It is 100%. I mean, there's a reason that Coke, Nike, Under Armour, McDonald's, all of these logos are associated with the Olympics is because they
donations.
pay. Yeah, it's donations. They pay to, be represented at the Olympics because it's the world's greatest marketing event every 2 years. You know what I mean?
Just have a much bigger pot. I mean, look how many.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's just a bigger pot. And I mean, prime example is look how many men are endorsed by Nike, Reebok, Under Armour versus women.
Well, and that's the thing is I can't even think of an ad besides a Got Milk ad that had females in it.
When we had the gymnastics team, that was being assaulted the entire time. But we had the gymnastics team that was just dominating the world. And not only were we, just behind the scenes completely disregarding, their health and safety, but paying them even less, not featuring them in the advertising. And this comes down to not only the Olympic Committee, but it's a call to action on different national companies as well to feature them because once again, the reason that female sports is not as promoted in this country, and women still choose to watch men's sports more often, a lot of that not just comes down to the actual action in the games itself, but how it's presented in the media and how you hear about it. I did not know Las Vegas had a basketball team until I moved there and I saw that the Aces were the number one team in the WNBA. I had no idea that they had a basketball team there.
Yeah.
Now you see Mark Davis, the Raiders owner, trying to get him out and advertise him a little bit more, but I think we're not asking for handouts here because I feel like that's what people keep trying to fucking go to when they want to keep the status quo in general. But it's, just, throw a little bit of like publicity and just be like, the WNBA, with the skills challenge for All-Star Weekend, have a couple women go in there. For the All-Star Skill Challenge, the 3-point contest, the skills challenge, the Rising Star Game, have it be, rookie and sophomore NBA players, or mix it up. You know what I mean? Like have a little bit of intermixing in there to where it's not so much overkill, but I still feel like we need to get to this point where leagues don't fuck with each other. You know what I mean? Like watching what the XFL and the CFL might be doing is kind of cool as well.
I think there's some credence to what you're saying. I don't know if I would agree. Like,
I'm just spitballing ideas here.
No, I definitely. I think that we as a nation, we need to support our female athletes a lot more than what we're doing is really what it comes down to. Hell, like even our U.S. women's softball team was so dominant for a long time. And most people can't name a single person who played on our U.S. softball team ever.
Yeah. Well, and even bringing it back down to like, say, a Rapid City level, like there wasn't very much support when it came to football here, and football was underpaid and under sponsored here in Rapid City. It's the same story versus local and national level,
Yeah.
So I would say,
it's definitely all about where we're endorsing. Like, and to get back to your question, it's about just how big that pot is. We have so many more people who are donating to men's sports versus women's sports that the men have a bigger pot to divide. Essentially, is really what it comes down to. Women, on the other hand, don't have that big pot. That's the reason why they're able to double dip. Not only get that smaller pot from the endorsements, but also they get paid by their club team. Yeah. So that helps, but it's still nothing compared to.
But I mean, obviously, when you're talking about other sports as well, you're talking about like basketball players. Obviously, they get to, double dip, and then there's players who are still good. They get to be professionals. In the meantime, I mean, everybody gets to make that money. I think. Another huge concern was obviously this year at the NCAA tournament. I mean, I don't want to kind of keep kicking on this dead horse here, but the one thing that I was surprised about was the weight room. First of all, I get it now that they're separate. Especially in 2021 with A, COVID, and B, everything else going on. I get you have separate weight rooms, cool. But man, just to like visually just shit on them, like they gave them nothing for weights. I was like, man, I could understand if there was like more men's teams or something like in some way, shape, or form, a bit of a difference, but like it's literally the same tournament with the same bracket. Y'all are playing in the same city, like they're trying to make it like the same thing, just men and women's. And obviously, when it came to because at that point that is one pot going into that, and that's the NCAA making that choice.
And their food as well.
I think that was the one that was the biggest thing. Not so much the weight room and the gift bags, but man, the food. Like you're really going to be that different on just everything across the board, especially nutrition.
Women have to go cafeteria style, and men get these catered plates.
Yeah,
like that's outrageous, ridiculous.
Man. Yeah.
So I didn't pay attention to any of the tournament stuff, but that's a thing. That shit happened.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So let me pull up the photos here for you while we're looking at this here. But yeah, essentially at the tournament this year, this player for I want to say Baylor, she TikToked it. She was like, "Look at this bullshit here," and so.
Yeah, it's so nutty. Like the big difference there is between men and women's sports, and you know, I'm a huge advocate for women's sports because I feel like. Honestly, you can make the argument that naturally men are bigger, stronger, faster. Just naturally. I mean, that's just... Now, that's not always the case.
Yeah.
But if you take a female and you put her... Let's say we're talking basketball, for example. You put her on in the NBA, just the NBA itself, and you're going to make an argument that she's...
Scroll over, too.
She's not going to be as successful, you know? And that's just because we're built physically different.
Yeah, like
not to say that like she's not as skilled or anything like that, because she is. You know, there are Sue Bird in her prime, one of the greatest female basketball players ever to play the game. But you know, she'll just because we're different, and that's literally all it is.
I mean, yeah. Just address the elephant in the room. Obviously, you know, like men are, you know, obviously NBA players compared to WNBA players, bigger. You know, as far as height, weight, you know, probably would test better, stronger, and faster too. Let's just get that one out of the way. But still, at the end of the day, that doesn't dismiss the things that are kind of going on in the middle area. Yeah. You know, like I said, the NCAA tournament. Like I was showing Logan the photos, and he was just like, "Bro, are you serious?"
Yeah, well, one of the for the plate that I had just seen, it looks like somebody just packed their lunch.
Bro, it looks like prison food.
Yeah, prison food. Somebody packed their lunch, and then somebody's like, "Oh, we're getting such and such restaurant catered to us today."
Yeah, right. You got shrimp scampi and ribs and pork chops and shit.
There's no reason and there's no excuse for it, especially for the gym equipment. Yeah, give them less weights. Give them less quantity of weights. Give them the same equipment because they're not going to be lifting as heavy, but they still deserve those things.
Yeah, they still deserve like squat racks and bench racks and stuff like that.
You know, honestly, the people that we have to blame are us. You know, it really is, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be watching you're not going to be watching a women's basketball game. You're not going to be watching a women's soccer game. Hell, do you even know when the women play soccer? It's literally typically rarely broadcasted, and that's the biggest issue. But the reason why that is because we don't view it either, and that's the biggest problem. Yep. When it is on, we don't view it. So then, why would a network view something, or show something that they're not viewing?
Yeah,
you don't have viewers for. So
yeah, at the end of the day, it's capitalistic, and you have to make money. And if there's not enough money in it, they're gonna throw what money they can to try to make some money off of it.
So we all need to start watching more women's sports.
Yes, let's
start watching sports in general.
Hashtag watch women's sports 2021.
Hashtag watch women's sports
2021. Yep. Rock and roll. Well, enough of us harping on that because, we're just fucking shame. Anybody who's a misogynist listening, fuck, I'm never listening to that podcast again. Claire, go get me another fucking beer. God damn it. All right. And I'm not going to jump any more into that stereotype. I could fucking joke all day. But, I think another thing we were talking about here, we kind of talked about pre-podcast here, something SirCar and I wanted to talk about as we're going to kind of kick off into the last part of the podcast here, is all three of us have a very weird love of serial killer documentaries. Question, gentlemen, question. Have you seen the John Wayne Gacy one on Peacock yet?
I have not yet.
No, I don't have Peacock.
Highly, I'll send you my login because that's just how it works nowadays. Yeah. I steal my mom's Netflix and then I have everything else. I have my own Hulu, like Amazon, like people steal.
I need to send you my Plex. You'll like it.
Plex, okay. Yeah. I'll have to give you something in return, like HBO Max or whatever you don't got. You probably got all of them. HBO Max?
Oh, yeah.
You got Max?
I still need to see
Kong versus Godzilla.
I still need
Bro,
to see
you need to see Kong versus Godzilla.
I know.
It's so good.
I'm seeing Godzilla all the way, so whatever.
I say that was the
Fight me.
first movie that has done well.
You and
since
Forrest
COVID.
fucking go rounds on that.
Fight me.
I wanted to walk in right after I watched it, just to look at Forrest. Shout out Forrest, franchise manager down at the Volkswagen store. He's a huge fan of King Kong, and I just wanted to walk in and just be like, Godzilla won, bitch, and then just walk out.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason why he's called God.
Zilla. All right. Watch the movie. You'll thoroughly enjoy the movie. But yeah, just watch it. But yeah, we'll definitely have to, flip over some subscription services here. But yeah, definitely watch that John Wayne Gacy one. What was probably the most recent, kind of story like that you have watched? Logan, and then we'll flip over to you, SirCar, as far as like most recent documentary that kind of caught you up. Because I know you're probably a little more true crime and that.
Yeah, so I've been watching a lot of stuff on YouTube. And some of those YouTube ones that have come out are like, and it's more murder mystery, but it's like the case of Sarah Turney. And Sarah Turney was a girl who was in a weird living situation where her father was taking advantage of her and treating her all kinds of ways. And after so much sexual abuse, she had gone missing. And the guy was basically like schizophrenic, and he wasn't like a mass murderer or anything, but it's just one of those weird things where something was obviously wrong in his head. He got a relationship or an attraction to his own daughter and was doing stuff and killed her. But they're in litigation right now, so they can't talk about the case that's going on. But there's tons of things talking about all of the evidence and all the things that came up. There's actually a podcast specifically, I think it's like 8-hour episodes long of everything going on. And it's just so interesting because it's coming from the younger sister's perspective, because she was, I want to say 8 years younger or something like that. And she got to witness her older sister between the ages of like from 12, whenever she started going through puberty, all the way through until she had gone missing. And the way he treated his daughters were completely two separate ways. One daughter was the princess and got everything and was treated away and got to do whatever she wanted. The other one was controlled, manipulated, couldn't be in long-term relationships with anybody or any guy, and couldn't hang out with friends, and always just, and I don't know, just seeing that dynamic inside someone's head. What makes you want to treat two kids completely different and say that situation hadn't happened? Would it have perplexed itself to be another situation with the youngest daughter, But I don't know. But that's one of the ones that I've most recently watched, and it's kind of crazy.
That is nuts. Yeah. Now, is that the same case where it was like he ran away with her, like straight up kidnapped her, or
no?
I'm thinking of a different one then.
Yeah,
okay.
This girl just straight up went missing, and it's always funny in these cases because you either have the person who's non-existent and doesn't want to have anything to do with the case. Mm-hmm. It's like, please just do your job and get something done. Or there's the one where the guy is doing so much.
It becomes an obsession.
Yeah, like. Oh, I need to go to this town and this town's. Oh, I got a tip off that she was here and here and here. And it's like, dude, you literally just drove 10,000 miles round trip on a lead that nobody can confirm that you actually had.
Right.
Like, and so I don't know. It's all fishy, and I'm pretty sure the guy's gonna be found guilty just based on all the stories that I've heard. But of course, with court cases and how they're handled, you can't know what's going on. The people who are in it can't talk about it, and
right?
So
until it's finished,
yeah. And so hopefully, when it's done, it's like I can talk about it a little bit more to know exactly the fine details, because that would be just amazing to have not a happy ending, but a justified ending.
I think everybody wants to see clarification, especially like when you're looking at true crime. You like the ribbon to be tied on it. That's why for me personally, like it'll probably rack my anxiety while if I ever do like killers who haven't been caught yet.
Oh.
Like I remember getting into the Golden State Killer when he was still just Irons. Because they hadn't really coined him the Golden State Killer yet. I remember watching like documentaries and stuff about him growing up when they were like rumoring, okay, he might be the original Night Stalker, he might be the East Area Rapist, like this guy might all be the same person, so on and so forth. And then kind of to follow that through to when 2017, when he finally did get caught, it's like That is probably where my obsession kicked it into overdrive, because I'm just like, not that, because they have a fantastic documentary out, if you've ever seen I'll Be Gone in the Dark on HBO. Features Patton Oswalt and his late wife, Michelle McNamara, and kind of their private sleuth way of, really helping to kind of catch this guy and really bring him out into the light a lot more and give him some more publicity. But, to see one of those cases, like I said, it's very anxiety, like riding and stuff like that too. But when you finally do, see a guy like that get caught and you're like, holy shit, like this is something I've been following over the years. It's finally some justice served. There is that,
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, exactly. There's that feeling of fuck that guy, but also like you have no personal attachment to it whatsoever, but like you feel satisfied, but also like a hunger for like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Because it's like such a thing that you have focused on. And not like an obsession, but like I said, it's something that was a pretty prominent case. Like if they ever find out who the Zodiac killer is, like I'm just going to be like, God damn. Wait, there's a huge hole in my life now.
Yeah. The Zodiac, man.
I'm pretty sure. I think they have it confirmed, but like I said, the day they 100% ever confirm that, that'll be interesting.
100% ever confirmed.
Exactly. Exactly.
So there's always going to be that speculation. Like same with Jack the Ripper. Like shit happened over a century ago, and you can never truly 100% confirm it. I don't care what anybody says, to be completely honest. Like because it happened so long ago. Yeah, we do have some DNA. Supposedly we have DNA, but like just through the rate of like body decomposition.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there's always just going to be like that
technology differences.
That percentage of a chance, and the is this, unless time travel is actually real and we can go ahead and we can firsthand see it, because once again, everything with DNA, especially from that sort of time period, when you're talking Jack the Ripper, you're talking late 1800s. Even if they did collect something, you don't know 100% if that's the case. Did it get switched up? Is this the proper DNA? So on and so forth. Just because of procedure at that time.
Yeah, the methodology on handling it and actually the testing and securing procedures. Like,
are you sure that you have the right DNA?
Yeah. Well, even today, cases get botched because of the police didn't get there before the paramedics, and they didn't actually secure the scene and actually take all of the evidence and take all the pictures. There's people working and walking through cases even now, and to say that those standards would have been established in the 1800s, I can't say that they were. You know,
I think that's one of the reasons why I have a big issue with like trying to go back in time to confirm, like, oh, this person did this or stuff like that, or this happened because of this, so on and so forth, is because you will never 100% truly know. It's still going to be speculation. Either way you look at it. You can do carbon dating. Carbon dating is fairly accurate, so we say.
Like give or take 100 years sometimes,
but still, it's still speculation.
Yeah,
you can't go back in time. We don't have that ability yet.
Exactly. There's always going to be that that finite percentage that is unsecured and unconfirmed.
Yeah, and I will always be on that side of this. I'm saying, can you go back and prove that we had dinosaurs? We have bones, but do we know this is what this dinosaur looked like? Hell, even it's been within the past 10 years we determined that the T-Rex was actually a giant bird.
Yeah, that we determined the T-Rex actually didn't have like what reptilian skin. It actually had feathers.
No, it had feathers. Yeah. But for the longest time, we thought it was a reptile.
But in Jurassic Park, the T-Rex is still, materialized as a reptilic, monster that it is. Because it's commercialized like that.
Literally a giant ostrich or emu. So there's that, and not to discredit our own technology and our own ability to jump to conclusions and stuff like that, because a lot of times we do get some level of accuracy with it. Yep. It's just that we'll never actually be able to confirm, and that's the side that I'll always be on.
Yep. Always hold out for that 0.4% chance.
Yeah. I think the one that the serial killer that still fascinates me probably the most
is the asteroid that took out the fucking dinosaurs. I was just about to say the same thing.
Like a dick move, right?
Yeah, bro. Bro, how you gonna do a society like that? Like, bro,
how do you create genocide? Like,
just like the audacity.
That was a dick move. Like, and not only just the dinosaurs that were above ground, but like the ones that were underground too, or in the ocean.
Yeah.
That is the fossils I want to fucking find, because like they're around here. Before you get to your serial killer, one more thing about dinosaurs, I want to find the fucking sea dinosaurs. Like, get down there, because they haven't found all them motherfuckers yet. I swear to God, there's a 150-foot alligator out there somewhere.
I took marine biology, and I decided that the scariest place is not space; it's our ocean. And it was shortly after I kind of reconfirmed it, actually. So I saw the documentary, The Meg, and I was just like, after that I was like, I mean, if we theoretically know more about space than our own ocean, then how is The Meg possibly not a documentary? Because we just don't know that.
China was covering it up. There really was a Meg attack, motherfucker. There is a space below.
Yeah, so
I actually really love the Meg for shark movies. Love it. Great shark movie.
Yeah. But no, in all actuality though, like if we supposedly know more about space than we do our own ocean, which is ludicrous.
You know what fake documentary fucked me up for a long time? The mermaids, the story of us or whatever. The one where it was like there are two diverging species of human. One that stayed on land, and then one that went in the earth, and it was all about mermaids and how and it was on the Discovery Channel, and it made it seem like it was real. And then like if you catch it at the end of the end is like, this is not true. This is just scientific thought process of what would have happened if humans evolved to be under the ocean and everything. And they went through the process of how humans' skin would have evolved to be scaly, so that it had the hydrodynamics, so that you could
breathe
fluently
underwater.
Yeah, and then the gills, and then over time how your eyes would adapt so that you could adequately see underwater and everything, and how dolphins would have been the equivalent to dogs.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
and then they're like, it was like we could theorize that we would use them to help us hunt, and the reason why they would is because it would be a symbiotic relationship. And I'm like, dude, you've got me wanting us to find mermaids because of this.
What's this called?
I'll
see that. Yeah.
Let me pull it up on my Voodoo.
Yeah, because I'm sitting over here like, it might be real though. I'm just saying. I'm sold.
Yeah. So, I mean, and even on top of that, like, you want to get into it, like, so colossal squid, for example, like, we know that they exist, but we've never actually seen one or caught one. And the reason why is because after a squid dies, it decomposes at such a quick rate that by the time that we do actually find one or corpse, then it has decomposed to the size of a giant squid or smaller. And that's really what it comes down to. Or it gets eaten. So we're not able to truly confirm. There have been sightings of colossal squid. There's evidence of colossal squid, but we still haven't actually confirmed colossal squid.
Right.
Maybe it was just abnormally giant squid, stuff like that. And like the Meg, for example, like megalodons. We have yet to truly confirm megalodons don't exist. We believe they don't exist, but there are some things that we can't really explain that happen that we don't have any evidence of what truly happened to be able. So the speculation is that there still exists. Prime example was one of the biggest great white sharks that we had recorded. I want to say it was like 18 feet or something like that. Just one of the biggest
20.
ones. It was a 20 foot. It was actually tagged, and so we had radio on it. And at one point, they saw that it started swimming really quickly, and then all of a sudden, it plummeted to depths that great white sharks just don't go to. And the only speculation was that it got eaten.
Something really big got
a hold of it and drug it down.
Yeah.
What does that? What's big enough to do that? To arguably the apex predator on the planet, arguably.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and that is the great part about science, is because, man, can you imagine the day that you find that fish though? Like you get that on record. I live for the day that a megalodon is still found alive to this day, like, because I think at that point you are talking about something like in the movie The Meg, where not so much like a subterranean environment that we don't know that's there, but it lives so deep and it has developed such bone density over time that it just lives out there to the point where it only goes, like hunting, really,
Well, I mean, and
in
then
a
on
different
top of that,
environment.
we assume that the human race is the smartest animal on the planet.
Yeah.
And that may not truly be the case. Maybe there is a fish type animal out there that can detect when human or things that are not natural in its natural environment. So it avoids it altogether. Doesn't need to focus on it. Right. So, I mean, there is that. I don't know. I mean,
Fish people. I'm down for fish people. What's the documentary called though?
It is called Mermaids, the Body Found, and here's the synopsis. Could mermaids really exist? Grounded in radical scientific theory, Mermaids is a story about two scientists who testify they found the remains of a never before seen or before identified sea creature. With actual amateur footage and stunning CGI, experts explore what mermaids may look like, how they lived, and how they could have evolved but remained hidden until now. And so just the way that they had created this, the whole thing makes it seem like these guys actually found a mermaid that washed up. And it starts off like this. These two kids are walking on a beach. One's got, and it was an old flip phone with a camera. That's how old it is for some of the younger viewers here. But they're walking, and all of a sudden they're coming up to this big old bundle of seaweed. And all of a sudden this still alive mermaid reaches up and screams at one of the kids, and they catch it on camera. However, it is not a real documentary. It's just a reimagining of what happened. And
you got to remember, everybody out there, just remember it's not real. The real people aren't going to come get you.
I was so let down when it wasn't real, because when I realized it, was like my world got shattered, because it made me think of a whole different thing, because the ocean is so vast, it's so big, and we can't observe everything, and so it just pissed me off.
question. What is this flip phone that you said?
Oh, yeah. There was a flip phone in there where the kids were taking video of it.
You know which one of them there flip phones is.
It was like,
Get off my lawn.
You see, SirCar, back when I was a boy, my parents used to have a cellular phone that you used to have to flip
It was
open.
back when phones had buttons on them.
And it had plastic buttons, and you had to call between certain hours, and games were expensive, and everything was just crap.
To send a text, to say to use the C letter, you had to press the 2 button 3 times. Right?
It's like it was after Nokia, but before BlackBerry.
God, I'm almost getting nostalgic. Oh my God, take me back. I would have bought in so much real estate at a lot younger time. No.
So real talk. So one of my cousins, he got in trouble. He had ADHD. He smoked weed and stuff like that. He ended up getting in trouble.
Shame.
Stuff like that. He goes to jail, of course. Spends, I want to say 2 or 3 years or something like that. He gets back out. He's talking to, I believe it was to one of his buddies. He was like, "Hey, let me borrow your phone real quick. I need to make a phone call." So his buddy gives him an iPhone, and my cousin's like, "What is this?" And he was like, "It's a phone." He was like, "Where are the buttons? How am I supposed to call somebody?" And then they had to walk him through it because he had been in jail. And knowing the technology, that's how quickly it went through.
Yeah.
Like
I could only imagine.
I was about to say, could you imagine being in prison the past 10 or 15 years just to come out and just to understand, I mean, the fact that everything's touchscreen now, the dynamics of that and just catching up to it, because I see this all the time selling cars, because I had a lady the other week. She went from a, what was it, 2008 vehicle, 2009, all the way to 2021. And I have to explain to her that her Hyundai now remote starts from her phone. Well, you have to download an app. What's that? Fuck. All right, can you take out your phone? She pulls out a flip phone. I'm like, shit. 2 weeks later, she comes back and she has a smartphone. And I'm like, oh, thank God. All right, here we go. I'm about to take customer name redacted here, Betty. We're gonna call her an old person name. We're gonna take Betty through the basics of having a smartphone. Once again, the guy at Verizon definitely passed this off on me, but whatever. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Chad, the final boss at Verizon, I will find you one day. But Yeah, holy shit. We are reaching the hour mark here, and that is going to end the first part of this episode with Logan Gayton and SirCar Brown. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. This episode actually just we got to talking about a lot more interesting conversation, and instead of continuing to draw it on, I figured we kind of cut this one here at the hour mark and then do a completely second edition, that features the rest of this episode going on here. So for tuning in, thank you once again for Beers and Bullshit. This is Cole Blenner, and we are out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in once again to another episode of Beers and Bullshit. My name is Cole Blenner. Thank you so much for tuning into the show here today. We have a very special first time. It's actually the first time we've ever been recording, and we split an episode into two. Now, I can realize that anything probably more than an hour really gets, over-exaggerating on your ears. And it becomes really hard to listen to because when I listen to podcasts myself, kind of something I didn't really pick up at first when I was doing this is, man, sometimes it's a really long time to listen to a podcast. Sometimes you can only fit in a little bit during the day. You lose your place. You never come back to it, so on and so forth. So to make this a little bit easier for everybody, SirCar and Logan, some friends I had on the episode that you listened to before that this one is going to be released here. The conversation was just too good. We just kind of kept going on. And even then when I switched the topic of conversation and went to go lead it off, we went down an even better road. So kind of doing this intro, after the fact, I just wanted to give that experience to everybody here. I just wanted us to kind of continue on with the same episode that we were having, but also not, really draw it out, kind of give, yourself, the listener, me listening back to this here, just kind of a break, a couple of different days, and then, just release this second part here. That way we can finish the conversation. Because like I said, we had a good time. We kind of talk about a little bit more serious things here in the second part of this podcast, but I think it's really important that these conversations are had and brought up. And that's the point of Beers and Bullshit, honestly, with this podcast, is it's funny, it's serious, it's going to be everything else in between, because I like to have a good time. Obviously, if you're listening into this, me. I like to joke around. I like to poke fun. I like to, have fun and, make this a really lighthearted podcast. But also at the same time, we do like to get into some topics, some truths about the world, and just some things that are maybe, under spotlighted and they aren't really shown in the public light as much. I'm really kind of escaping the words right now just because this was such an awesome conversation for us to have. I was a really big fan of it, and I hope you guys are too. So just to start off the episode though, kind of doing an introduction after the fact, we just want to shoot out a big thank you to Top Wave Studios, Mr. Paul Wolf. Thank you so much for making this happen. Paul Geisler, Ethan Eicher, everybody with the business, Bob Medic. Sorry, Bob, if I'm saying your last name wrong, because I realize I only ever say your guys' first names when we endorse you. But we love you guys with the business. We just want to thank you so much. Shit. I'm just kind of stuttering and, just trying to buy a little bit of time because the extra portion of this episode wasn't as long as the previous one. But hey, screw it. Here is the rest of the Beers and Bullshit featuring SirCar and Logan Gayton and modestly myself, Cole Blenner. Enjoy. Or Mark here, God, we get so off track all the time. And that's 100% my fault. Circling back to the serial killer discussion, though, what is the most interesting documentary you have seen recently, SirCar? Because we were on that and then squirrel.
I haven't, I'm going to be honest. I've been out that game for a little bit. I'd say probably H.H. Holmes. So, and
there is a really good one on H.H. Holmes.
I really enjoy H.H. Holmes. Before that, the one that I really did love, though, documentary-wise, not true crime or anything like that, but was The Men Who Built America.
Great documentary. Great documentary.
So, true crime-wise, it would be H.H. Holmes. Non-true crime-wise would be Men Who Built America.
Have you seen that one, Logan?
Nope.
So it's about Vanderbilt, Rockefeller.
It goes down. It starts with Vanderbilt. Conrad Vanderbilt, who he owned like a shipping company. Essentially, he has a foresight to see that, okay, well, shipping in the ocean is going to be completely irrelevant pretty soon. Not completely irrelevant, but there's going to be more money made intercontinental shipping versus, going outside the U.S. and stuff like that. So he sells off his company and starts building railroads. And so he builds all the railroads. He builds a lot of the railroads. And then we go into John Rockefeller, who, because he owned most of coal and kerosene, he was able to dictate that way. Then you had Andrew Carnegie.
I was about to say, yeah, Carnegie was the next one.
Andrew
or Carnegie, whatever. I call him Carnegie. Sounds like
I think it's Carnegie. I think it's Carnegie. I don't know. It's American is Carnegie.
I don't know. You can get close to saying the second part of that. I probably shouldn't. So no, I got it. Yeah. It's Carnegie.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but then he was in charge of like steel. He came up with steel and stuff like that. So he was able to build, and it just goes down the line, and eventually you end up with like the Wright brothers, and then Ford, and so on and so forth. So that's a great documentary. That it's a long one. I think it's like 12 hours or something like that. But a very, very great documentary. I love it. I try to watch it once every few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's cool to see how things evolve in the thought process. Like even now, I would say the United States, which they just passed an infrastructure plan, including more rail systems throughout the United States, so that there's more long range travel. But like even within like statewide from South Dakota to Colorado or over to Minnesota, getting a speed rail so that instead of driving the 6 to 11 hours to get somewhere, we can speed rail it and do it in half the time.
Yeah.
That, I don't know. I'm a big proponent for public transport because, no offense, Cole, cars are expensive and they're expensive to upkeep.
Go fuck yourself. I'll sell trains. I don't give a shit.
Dude, sell me a train.
Yeah, I will sell a train. All right, I will sell you public transportation. Lightning rails in Japan are fantastic investments. For the Midwest, I actually think it's less practical. I would love it for out here fantastically because you can make it to Minneapolis in 2.5, 3 hours by lightning rail. Where it is most practical, though, I will say, think about the fact that you can connect the PDX, Portland area, Seattle, Sacramento, San Francisco, Oakland area, Los Angeles, and San Diego, Phoenix, Vegas. I mean, literally the entire western strip of any sort of major city in the West Coast time zone there, in the Pacific time zone, and it's all within an hour of each other. By like when you were talking like individual stop to individual stop, you can literally, and if you were to go straight, you can make it from Seattle to Phoenix in less than 3 hours. Probably even less than 2 hours. I haven't done the math on that. What we were looking at was the proposed times and everything in the Midwest. But man, I could just imagine the West Coast and the East Coast would be even better off because right now it takes so long to get from DC to Philly or any one of those more Eastern area cities to like a Chicago or something like that to just kind of connect the more metropolis areas of this country. I'm a huge, huge supporter of that, let alone putting it in the Midwest as well to be able to, Denver to Rapid in an hour and a half, that'd be fantastic. Like in flight times.
I think public transportation like that would be phenomenal. It would be so great. I guess I'm kind of scared of being molested whenever I'm on there, but that's here nor there. So
for public transportation, don't get me wrong, you're just a pot of sexual chocolate there, but yeah. Do you just have a thing about trains? Do people someone hurt you on a train? Oh, he just doesn't like trains in general. Yeah, wrong kind of train we're talking about here. We're talking about public transportation train. We're not talking about running a train. We're just talking about running trains.
No, so real talk. One of the things that I would advise people to do, and this was so phenomenal. So I worked for IBM back from 2011 to 15, and I was actually I needed to get a root canal fixed is really what it came down to. So I had a root canal done when I was in Markham, Ontario, which is about 45 minutes west of Toronto. But 9 months later, I was actually in Drummondville, Quebec, which is about an hour and a half northeast of Montreal. So what I did was I actually took the train from Drummondville, Quebec to Toronto, Ontario, and it was a 6-hour train ride. But it was phenomenal. It was so beautiful, and I could have gone further, so on and so forth. There's a terminal in Toronto, a giant hub, so you could literally go from one side of Canada to the other just via train. And such a beautiful. This was in February, so it was such a beautiful sight. Even though there was snow all over the ground, it was just so white. But you got to see just the terrain and stuff like that. And I would always advise, if you're able to spend the money to go visit Canada for, a weekend or something like that, you don't have to spend a lot of time. Hell, you can make it through Toronto in like a day, pretty much. And then you could do Montreal in like 2 days.
Make it there a lot faster if we had a fucking train.
Right? Yeah. We had a train to go to a train.
Trainception.
There
are so many applications for a train system. Like and there are a lot of issues within society that a train system could probably solve. Like, you know how we have Lyft and Uber and everything, but having a regular train system that takes people from A to B and can be reliable rather than say Rapid Ride or whatever that actually ends at a certain time.
Yeah.
Whenever people are out at the bars and stuff, it's like, oh, I can jump on the train and have safe transport rather than some other.
Because they have that in New York City, like especially like the Long Island train and everything. Like they reference that in How I Met Your Mother, the Long Island train that goes back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, the closest we have is just like Greyhound, which is unfortunate, but
yeah. I used to take a lot of those buses whenever I was a young boy.
No, I was about to say, football time. God, I just shivered hearing the name Greyhound.
When you call the aisle seat so you can lay in it, so you can sleep the whole way across the state.
Luckily, I never had to do that.
Thank God for senior year when you can finally sleep in the back of the bus, because, man, there were some fucking times. I remember the worst time in a Greyhound bus I ever had. We were going down to New Orleans for a church trip. Yeah, Nolans. And this is right after Hurricane Katrina. It's supposed to be some big Lutheran youth conference. And we took a fucking Greyhound bus from Rapid City down to Nolans.
That's rough.
And it was rough. Like 36 hours. 36 hours. 36 hours because for some reason, we had to take a detour and go to Bridgeport, Mississippi for a little bit to see the ocean. Wasn't my choice. Wasn't my choice, but
like a 28-hour job.
Bro, fucking white people, man. I don't know, dude. Seriously, like it was, like I said, was not my choice. We went through like the ghettoest area of Bridgeport. I thought it was awesome. We was like, oh, we're in a really rough neighborhood here. And then we go to the beach to where prominently like half of us got stung by jellyfish. So it was fantastic
another reason
choice
to avoid the ocean.
Exactly. That is salty as shit. All right,
Pun intended.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's
some pepper in that bitch. Be like, balance yourself, boo.
Oh, and that's the Midwest problem. It's only 14 hours. Why not drive?
Yep.
Like,
no shit, right? Yeah. I know. Our church said fucking esket it. They were just like, nah, we will drive down here. But the funny part is you had to sign a release form. So if you had, because I had a little fling down there, not that we got caught or did anything, but if you got like caught, doing the nookie or anything like that. Okay, there might have been one day I was sick from the youth conference, all right, and so was she. But listen, gentlemen's lips stay sealed. But if you got caught or anything like that, they'd fly your ass back. And we were looking at tickets, and they were only like $400. But what you had to make the entire year, I ended up fundraising like over $1,600 for this trip, just to go.
That's crazy, yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong; they put us up in the Hilton down in New Orleans, so that was nice. We got the Hilton Riverside. Yeah, that was still to this day one of the nicest hotels I've stayed in. It was fantastic, great time, but. It just made me laugh because they're just like, yo, we're going to take a Greyhound bus because there wasn't that many of us either. So renting out this whole Greyhound to hire 2 drivers to go down to New Orleans and back. There was only 25 kids and 5 adults on an entire Greyhound bus. Like we stretched out, but it was just rough because you slept probably 3 different nights on that bus. It felt like it was just because when we left New Orleans too, like we slept one night and then we got back like super late, when we were getting back and everything, because we just pushed on through.
Yeah.
Like
to this day, man. I mean, most of the time when I go home being Dallas, unless I'm taking my dogs, then I will always fly. It's only like with the dogs is like a 16 and a half, 17-hour drive. So it's not, once you make it out of Nebraska, then it's not terrible. It really
is.
The
flatland in Kansas does look a lot better than the flatland in Nebraska and South Dakota. I will say that with seriousness.
Yes.
Because Kansas is a better drive. I used to see my uncle in Wichita all the time, and I felt like the second I kind of got to like Grand Island, it switched up a little bit, and then once you got to Kansas, you're like, okay, the flatness looks a little better for some reason.
Yeah, whenever I make it to like Salina, it really only feels like a 6-hour trip back to Dallas, and it's not. It's like still like 8 or 9 hours still. But it feels a lot less,
Yeah. Growing up a poor kid who didn't travel a whole lot, Cole and I actually drove to Wichita once.
Yes.
And it was...
Tell the story.
Okay. So I had been driving illegally since the age of 15 and continued
allegedly.
Allegedly. And continued to allegedly do so until I was 19. And so the day of this
you get
trip,
your license at 16.
I didn't want to pay the $20 to do it.
Bro, that's how frugal this motherfucker is. I swear to God. I told him we were going out of state, like, you know, and everything. And so, like, after we planned this vacation and stuff like that, like, we got it on the books and everything. And he's like, yo, I should probably get my license, though.
Yeah. And so the day of the trip, I go to the DMV, and of course, pre-COVID, you could just show up, take your test, and you can just say, hey, I want to schedule a driver's test. And they're like, okay, cool. We're open at 8 a.m. So that's what we did, is I took my driver's test, got the license, had never, ever had any issues with the law whatsoever. And Cole takes the first leg of this drive. And so we are going from Rapid City, South Dakota, all the way to Murdo, which is the center of South Dakota.
Alliance, Nebraska is where we ended up switching over.
Yeah. And so Cole naturally is going about 100 miles per hour the whole way.
That doesn't make any sense.
What?
So you went to Murdo.
Or no, it wasn't
and
Alliance.
then,
Was it Alliance? No. Well, it was Murdo and then straight down to
Valentine.
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 Sorry, my bad.
Say,
Not
like,
Alliance.
If you were going to go
Valentine.
Alliance, then you would have taken 79. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
My bad.
But,
Valentine.
okay.
Valentine.
Yeah. And then we fueled up in Valentine, and I think that's where I took over.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, I just got my driver's license. I should drive. Okay, I'm not going to speed. It's not my car, whatever. I'm going 5 miles over the speed limit, and this Nebraska sheriff fucking clocks me going over, and he pulls a shitty, like, I see smoke coming off of his tires, turning around, and this is an area where it's not flat, and I'm going downhill, and I'm like, if he pops over and I see his lights, it's fucking game over. And so he comes over, lights on, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting pulled over. Get pulled over. And he comes over and he's like, you know how fast you're going? And I was like, well, it's like, I didn't see that there was a speed limit sign posted for a while. It's like, last I saw in South Dakota, it was such and such speed. So it's like, I must have been doing, 2, 3 over? You were doing 5. You were doing 5 over. And I'm like, oh, is that a bad thing here? It's like, well, you're only getting a warning. And, I'm Native American, and I always have kind of prided myself on being Native American. And he hands me the ticket, and it fucking says Caucasian. And I've been pissed about that the whole goddamn time. I get my license first time and get a ticket, well, a warning, but yeah. And so,
I mean, not to be racist, but
I'm
look
light-skinned.
more white than Native American.
I look like something. Nobody can tell what. But I like to say I'm Heinz 57 because it's all
fair.
mixed in there.
That's true. This
You're American is what you are.
Yeah, true.
I'm the import. Who's the import? You're the import.
What are you talking about?
My 23 and me says Heinz 57. I came from everywhere.
Listen. My family was just a bunch of simple potato farmers. Just trying to make a living.
During the potato famine?
I did not come to this country, and I have the documentation to prove it. My family did not come to this country and perform any genocide against anybody. I apologize for the actions of my fair-skinned brethren, but you do not blame that shit on the Irish, my man.
Nope. Not at all.
No.
Yep,
No, sir.
not at all, sir.
Not at all.
Exempt.
You know what's crazy? Like with my 23 and me, there's some African American blood in there.
I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah. And so that's on my mom and dad's side of the family. But my dad is like Heinz 57, like has everything mixed in. My mom's 100% white.
That explains what your wife was talking about.
What'd she say?
Never mind.
but on my mom's side, and like 4 or 5 generations back, she's in Texas, and she was like, yeah, no, son, just so you know and are aware, in our family history, we did have slaves. We did. And then I was like, you know what's weird? Is around the time we had slaves, there's also, from 23andMe, they tell you when the genetics were introduced.
Oh, yeah.
So around the time that my family had slaves, that's where it got introduced into my bloodline. And so
Black got in you.
Yeah. And so it's kind of nuts because I don't know, it's 2 sides of the same coin. You just got to the intrinsic look at how that history hashed out. And at some point there was racism, but then those 2 ancestors of mine, there wasn't. Mm-hmm. Or however that ended up. I would like to say
I was about to say an optimist view because
optimistic view.
To bring it back down, let's be honest, in those situations sometimes.
Seeing as how there is not a webcam here and most people cannot see me, for the record, I am black.
Yeah.
Just so y'all know.
Actually, no, he's not. He's lying.
Well, no, I guess I was actually lucky because my older sister did some ancestry tests and stuff like that. And as far back as we can tell, there was that my family, my ancestors were never actually slaves. We were always free in the South for however that worked. And, it was a different time back then, and I mean, that's a much, much different conversation as well. I probably don't have the same view as most people, but it was just a much different time.
Yeah. The social standards were very much different, and they were rapidly changing.
Correct.
And based on not just economic circumstance, but what was accepted.
It was social circumstances, and stuff like that. So.
And luckily it's advanced to where it is. It's still not where we want it or need it to be.
It's a work in progress.
But it's still better now than it was. That got really deep.
I don't know. I was about to say, I don't really have a dog in this fight. About as black as I get is Black Irish. So...
Same.
Yeah. So, yeah. And that's just because I got family from Northern Ireland. What's up? So.
Hey. Nah, I mean, in the end, we're all immigrants minus the Native Americans because they're Native American, like it's in the name, which is awesome. So we need to respect the Native Americans because we're on their land, their territory. So
100%. No, sorry, I was just returning a text. I'm fucking terrible at doing this. I'm multitasking here. No, that is one thing. Being from the Black Hills and everything originally, I've grown to fall in love with the Native American culture. And being out here, you get a very in-depth look at the history and kind of everything that happened, because one thing that amazed me, I had heard about it and I kind of experienced it a little bit overall, but I was ignorant to how much people are not taught about the rape and genocide of the Native Americans, if we're just going to call it what it is. I mean, the actual history to it, it's not taught anywhere else. And here it's not even taught. It's you learn more at the boys club about it than you growing up than you ever did from teachers.
So I when I work for Monument Health, for the record, Monument, they do a lot of work with Native Americans here, the Lakota, a whole lot of work. There is a group that works for Monument Health. I was part of that group as well. We work directly with the Council of Elders. I've met several of the Council of Elders here in Rapid. A lot of the artwork, a lot of the design that Monument Health has and stuff like that is based off of feedback and input from the Lakota here. Try to respect that. Every year, minus this past year, fuck COVID, there is they do, it's called a work class on wheels, essentially. And it's a 4 to 5 day, essentially college level class. You can get college level credit for it, where you go around and you learn about the Lakota and just Native Americans. On day one that I had this class, we took a quiz. And typically if you were scoring high on that quiz, you got a 16 out of 100. And that's just how much we don't learn about the Native Americans here. Just Native Americans in general. And I thought I did really well on it, and I still got an 18, which is still an 18 out of 100.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, and it's very specific to different areas too. I think the Midwest, the plight of the Native Americans and everything that's happened there, I think is very featured. You talk about it in different areas, things I think we're a little numb to. I mean, inner city violence, you don't really hear about here, and the impact of it. Maybe, as far as an off the top of my head, but I mean, it just seems like that one is. It's so crazy how big of a part of our history is, but it's still just not taught, because it seems like from after the Civil War up until World War I, it's just shit happened.
Yeah. No, and I mean, even to expand on that, I come from, I said, I come from Texas. I actually am part Cherokee. Not enough to claim it. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. But my great-great-grandmother was full blood Cherokee. And in the South, we didn't learn anything about Native Americans for the most part. Do we know about the Charioteers? Yeah. Do we know about just there being different Native Americans? Yes. But that's all we truly learned in school.
Yeah. Well, and, coming from my background, most of my history that I had learned was just from my family. And then because I grew up in Rapid, the education system is geared to whatever the curriculum needs to be. And there was like a 1 week unit that we read in like autobiographies from Native Americans that were at various points throughout major contention points, like Wounded Knee Massacre, which of course, so if you didn't write, it was just somebody heard your story and wrote it down.
Well, and let's remember that
Thank you for saying it that way too.
It is now known.
yeah.
Well, what I'm going to address here is because it is now known as the Wounded Knee Massacre. We learned at it, children of South Dakota, as the Battle of Wounded Knee, which is fucking disgraceful to call it that.
That is not acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm so glad
because fighting back in a massacre, apparently that's a battle. So
they didn't even fight.
Yeah,
that was the biggest issue.
That was so. From what I can remember of it, that was Chief Bigfoot was taking a group of Native Americans from the Cheyenne River, or maybe it was close to the Standing Rock Reservation area, and there is a trail called Chief Bigfoot's Trail that they ride. And actually, to this day, to this year, there are Native Americans who get on horseback and they ride that during the winter around the time that the Wounded Knee Massacre occurred. And they go and they pay homage to it, and they end up there in Wounded Knee. And last year, or maybe 2 years ago, they actually had an exhibit at the Dolphin Arts Center where they had poems and pictures and all kinds of stuff depicting, and they actually had the historical weather logs of what had happened. And these were individuals who were disarmed, didn't have weapons. They were just trying to get from a place of where they were being controlled to get to a place where they were not going to be. And well, towards the end, a lot of what had happened is in that area. So we're talking, I forget the highway, but say you're in the center of the town or the city of Pine Ridge and you're heading west on their major highway. There is a road that will come to the Wounded Knee Massacre site, and then there's a road that heads north towards Manderson. And for the militia to have said that we were just defending ourselves and we did what we could, there are logs from that say from this, they left at this time in the day and it was the morning, and they didn't return until well after hours of the night.
Yeah.
And so what they said is we were just protecting the site. However, they were finding remains of individuals that were clear up to the town of Wounded Knee and the area of Manderson, and that's where people fled. And in a car ride, those areas are 15 to 20 minutes apart.
Yeah.
So let alone by horseback and fleeing by foot, and you know what you imagine in that kind of situation.
So what that kind of details is these people went on horseback and sought after the people who were fleeing for their lives and actually had their way with whatever they ended up doing. And so that's just one of the craziest things that I learned as an adult, because I went to an art exhibit. That was a piece of history that I had learned, not from something that from the government,
from literally local knowledge. Is what it should have been.
Yeah. And I so when I took my class, I remember it slightly differently, but I am a bit inebriated, so there's some to that as well. And I could be confusing a few different things, but from what I remember, the chief had taken most of the warriors, and they were going to meet at, I think it was Red Cloud, or traveling south for a conference. And then the 7th Cavalry actually essentially took over Wounded Knee, this town, and literally just they took all the guns, all the weapons, and then just straight up body bagged everybody.
Yep.
And
100%, because like I said, what I believe to have happened, and let's preface this and say that there are disputed accounts throughout history, so we don't want to show too much of one bias and everything. Correct. But yes, there are heavily reports that there were no warriors in the village, which if you're looking at traditional, Lakota society, we're talking pretty much all the men or any able-bodied man at that point is then away from society. So you're looking at a U.S. Army unit.
Men being 15, 16 years old.
Medicine men and minors.
Yeah.
Yep. So you're talking the old, the young, the women and the children versus the U.S. Army.
Yeah. And there's even pictures of it too, where they were taking pictures the day after it happened of the dead bodies that were there. And you can see them. They're all wrapped up in coats and jackets. The wrinkles on the elderly face and how they're frostbitten and frozen and stuff. Yeah. And
what's even more sad is we don't even have an accurate count. Like, according to what the U.S. government says, I think they're almost according to Native Americans, the U.S. government's count is like 200 people short or something like that as well. So but again, I mean, that it was a couple of years since I took that class, and I don't recall all the specific details. Definitely challenge anybody listening to this, pique your interest. Please just go visit Wounded Knee. Like, go pay homage, go pay respect. It's a beautiful area. Fun fact. So, Wounded Knee is on a reservation, right? Well, ironically enough, so when it comes to Native American and land, you have deeded land and non-deeded land. Essentially is what it comes down to. Wounded Knee is on a reservation. Reservations are either deeded land or non-deeded land. That's all there is to it. Wounded Knee is actually, and the thing with that is only Native Americans can own land on reservations, according to our U.S. government. Yeah. Although Wounded Knee is actually owned by non-Native Americans.
Yeah. So as a civil engineer, I've had to do a lot of different things with land management and stuff like that. And just to see how the land area is broken up, because, the Bureau of Indian Affairs kind of manages some of the land and whether the lands are in fee, and stuff like that. And they break it up because there is leased land that they have allotted to be leased by tribal members or non-members for a certain very specific purpose. And they have large lots that you can house animals or you can farm and do stuff like that. And that is the lease funds go back to the BIA to bestow to the tribes to be able to use on certain things.
Just for the record, what does BIA stand for?
Bureau of Indian Affairs.
There you go.
And so that they kind of manage how that stuff works, and you have to apply. And then there's land management on the tribe. So you have the federal agency of BIA versus the tribal agency of land management or whoever governs it, and it's different names for different tribes and everything. So a lot of the time I have a small parcel of land up in Eagle Butte somewhere that got passed down to me from an ancestor. But because I have so many brothers, sisters, cousins and stuff, that land got fractured. So the only way it would make sense is if somebody would to give the land to whoever and it would all become one piece again. Right. But because it's so fractured and they've actually consolidated, or they're working to consolidate stuff where, hey, you have this much land and we're trying to consolidate, and they get permission, can we give you money for your piece of land so that we can restructure it for a lease lot or something so that we can lease it to somebody who can pay us money.
Does the BIA do that as well?
I believe so.
Yeah.
But because I haven't dealt on it from that side of it, I don't know all of the logistics, but I know that it was kind of hell working with it because of...
I know it's become a lot more sketchy, and even the way that it became deeded versus non-deeded land, man, like that was super sketchy as well. For any listener out there, like, I challenge you to go do some research on it for yourself as well, because it's actually very interesting. It's very tragic, honestly, is really what it comes down to. But it's very interesting how the land gets dispersed. Yep. Gets dispersed for the Native Americans on reservations. Ironically enough, is some of the worst land to try to farm on, to raise cattle on, like to do any type of living.
Well, I mean, something that we could honestly have a whole conversation about, but what I'm only going to touch base on here is if we're talking about the traditional treaties and the land that they were given compared to the land that they are entitled to. Shittiest land in that
Treaty of Laramie.
Yep.
Prime example.
Yep. I mean, look at what is good land out here in the Black Hills versus where the reservations are.
And that's also the reason why like most of Oklahoma is Native American land.
Did you hear about the big ruling that they just I can't remember what it's actually. There's the actual fallout is obviously not that they're going to clear the area, but they declared that big chunk in Oklahoma is reservation land that the U.S. government went back on it, and so like that tribe is supposed to be receiving a good amount of like money from the just from the government because of how bad they fucked up, and so now everybody with the Treaty of Laramie is looking like, excuse me.
Well, and they had, what was it, the Homestead Act that occurred. And that's when, like, even in Oklahoma, that's why there were people running to establish a homestead. And that at one point, it was like, oh, Native Americans can't occupy all their land because there's not so many of them. And so if you were a landowner, you could just run to wherever you needed to go and homestead it, and that was your land. And then once they got all of the parcels and stuff figured out and they've got it surveyed, then they went ahead and redelineated the boundaries of reservations based on who settled and where they settled. And a lot of people settled in Oklahoma, unfortunately, and that's kind of where that came from. And even up here, you'll see it, and you'll see like reservation maps where it'll be entire counties. But then once you go to like a land management office at a tribal office or whatever, you'll go in there and you'll see parcels within that spot missing. So you'll have like a dark tan area with a piece of a square or a rectangle missing. And that's where somebody had settled and it was pulled out of reservation land. And then you can see where certain counties where they were partially occupied, where it should be fully included, but only half of it's included because people occupied the other half and pulled it out and away from them.
Oh, it's extremely messy when you break down into it. Once again, if you're listening to this, we challenge you. Go out there. Kind of we'll wrap it up on this here. But yeah, go out there and actually experience, and dive into it for yourself. Start, reading things online, visit South Dakota. And when you come out here, go to the Dolphin Art Museum, go to Crazy Horse, talk to the locals, learn a little bit more of the actual history that, to be honest, you are not learning in school.
Do it around your area too. Like,
yeah, 100%. Yep. Not just here.
I don't think I'm out of place, but like we do challenge free thinkers and we challenge critical thinkers as well. Like get out there and do your own research and try to be unbiased whenever you're looking into things, because everything isn't so black and white, and there's a lot of things that we don't learn about in our American education, which is truly unfortunate, So yeah.
Another documentary I'm going to plug is Oliver Stone's Untold History of the United States on Netflix. Fantastic documentary, kind of tells it from a different point of view of probably the last 100 years of the United States and the history that you learned in school, and kind of like I said, a different perspective to things. So definitely go and check that out. As we finish up here, though, we're going to plug a couple of sponsors. Once again, we want to thank Top Wave Studio and the Business Entertainment for making this all happen here. Logan, thank you so much for stopping by tonight. It was a pleasure. We definitely got to have you back on, man. But like, I texted you probably, a couple of hours ago, and I'm like, hey, instead of going to the gym, you want to do a podcast instead? And appreciate you stopping by, man.
Oh, yeah. It was nice to be here. I honestly didn't expect the roller coaster of discussion that we had, and I'm glad I came.
Welcome to Cole and SirCar Talk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is tame. This is because we're recorded, man. We get off the mic, it gets a lot more fucking real. So.
Well, ADHD meets ADHD, man.
Yeah, meets ADHD meets what the fuck's going on here? So, SirCar, once again, thank you for coming back on. Definitely someone who will be blessing your ears with that melodic baritone of his. Thanks for coming back on. Like I said, man, it's always a blast to have you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Anytime. Just let me know.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, the next time you'll be hearing SirCar is going to be probably the Star Wars episode. Logan will definitely have to plan to have you back on in the future. But once again, for Beers and Bullshit, I'm Cole Blenner, and we are out. We are out. We are out. We are